Once there was a woodcutter with two children and their stepmother. The boy's name was Hansel, and the girl's name was Gretel. They lived so poorly that sometimes there was not even anything to eat. And then one evening he lay in bed, pondering how to feed the children further. His wife advised him to have children in the forest, light a fire, give a piece of bread each and leave them there, not all four of them die of hunger. But the woodcutter did not agree. And until then, his wife persuaded him that he finally agreed. And the children, because of hunger, also could not sleep and heard everything that their stepmother said to their father. And when the parents fell asleep, Hansel secretly rushed out of the house. The moon was shining brightly, and the white stones glittered like coins. Hansel pocketed as many of them as he could fit. Then he returned home and the children went to bed. In the morning, the stepmother came to the children, gave each of them a piece of bread, and they all went to the forest together. On the way, Hansel threw out white stones one by one. When they arrived at the clearing, my father began to light a fire. He ordered the children to sit near the fire and make sure that it didn't go out, while they and their stepmother would go for more firewood. They sat, tired, and fell fast asleep. When the children woke up, it was a dark night all around. And when a full month had risen in the sky, Hansel took his sister by the hand and went, looking for the way through the pebbles, which glittered like new coins, and showed them the way. They walked all night long, and at dawn they came to their father's house. Some time passed, and the children again heard how the stepmother one night began to beg their father to get rid of the children. He refused, but his wife did not want to listen to him. She cursed and expressed all sorts of reproaches to him. When the parents fell asleep, Hansel, like the last time, wanted to collect stones, but the stepmother locked the door and the boy could not leave the house. Early in the morning, the children were given a piece of bread each, even less than the previous time. On the way to the forest, Hansel shredded his piece in his pocket and threw the crumbs on the ground. The stepmother took them even further into the forest. Again a big fire was lit, and the father ordered the children to watch the fire while they and their stepmother chopped some more wood. When lunchtime came, Gretel shared her piece of bread with Hansel. And they fell asleep. We woke up when the dark night fell. And then a month came up, and they got together on their way, but they could not find a single crumbs, because thousands of birds fluttering in the forest had long been eating those crumbs. So the children walked for a very long time, but they could not get out of the forest. Suddenly, the road led them to the hut. Coming closer, the children saw that the house was all built of bread and biscuits, and the windows were made of pure sugar. Hansel reached up and broke off a piece of the roof, while Gretel went to the window and began gnawing at its windows. And then the door in the hut opened wide, and the old woman came out, leaning on a crutch. Hansel and Gretel were so scared that they even dropped their tidbits from their hands. And the old woman was kind and invited them to her hut. There was already abundant food on the table: milk, cookies, apples, and nuts. After dinner, the old woman made 2 clean beds for the children, and Hansel and her sister thought they were in heaven. But the old woman only pretended to be affectionate, but in fact she was an evil witch, who built her bread hut for this purpose in order to lure children. Early in the morning, while the children were sleeping, she took Hansel and put him in a small cage. And she ordered her sister to do everything that the wicked witch demanded of her. The old woman decided to fatten the boy in order to eat him later. So Gretel began to cook the most delicious food for Hansel, and she herself got nothing but leftovers. Some time passed, and the boy did not get fat. Then the old woman did not want to wait any longer, and decided to cook and eat Hansel. She ordered Gretel to light the stove and apply water. When the stove warmed up, the old woman ordered her to climb into the stove and see if it was hot enough. So she wanted to push the girl into the fire and bake her. But Gretel knew what was on her mind. She said that she did not know how to get in there, and asked the witch to show herself. The old woman got angry and climbed into the oven. Then Gretel pushed her and slammed the shutter behind the witch. Wow, how terribly the old woman hauled them. Gretel, meanwhile, rushed to Hansel and opened the cage. Having freed their brother, they went to the witch's room, in which there were boxes of pearls and precious stones in all corners, filled their pockets with them, and went home. For several days the children were looking for their way back. The forest seemed more and more familiar, and at last they saw their father's house in the distance. How glad he was to see his children alive. Hansel and Gretel poured on the floor all the pearls and gems they had taken from the witch. There was no need to think about food. And they began to live, live, and rejoice. And the father drove the evil stepmother out of the house. The queen lived in a beautiful castle. She had a daughter whom she dreamed of. The child had black hair and snow-white skin. Therefore, they named her Snow White. The queen soon died. The king did not grieve for a long time. A year later he brought a new queen to the palace. She was beautiful but angry. The woman brought a magic mirror with her. Every day she admired her reflection in him and asked him the same question: who is the most beautiful in the world? The mirror has always told only the truth. Therefore, it honestly praised the beauty of the queen, and the woman beamed with happiness. Snow White grew, and every year her beauty blossomed brighter. And now, once again, speaking to the mirror, the queen heard in response that now she is not the most beautiful in the world, but Snow White. The queen was not going to endure this in her own palace. She ordered her faithful servant to lead the princess into an impenetrable thicket and kill. But the servant could not, even for the sake of the queen, kill the sweet girl. He brought the princess into a dark forest and let her go. And he himself returned to the castle and told the queen that he had followed her order. For a long time, the princess wandered through the forest. Along the way she was helped by all kinds of forest inhabitants. Snow White was very kind to them, and therefore they became strong friends. In the evening, the princess accidentally stumbled upon a small house. She went into it and saw that there was no one in the house. The table was set for 7 people, and there were 7 cots in the bedroom. And everything in this house was very small. Therefore, Snow White realized that 7 little people live here. After a long and difficult journey, she lay down on one of the beds and fell fast asleep. The 7 dwarfs returned home late at night. They were greatly surprised by the appearance of an unexpected guest. Sleeping Snow White was so charming that the dwarves decided to let her sleep, and did not wake her. Morning has come. Snow White woke up, saw the 7 dwarfs, and was scared. But they were affectionate with her, and the girl told about her misfortune. They immediately liked Snow White, and the dwarfs invited her to stay with them. Moreover, she agreed to take care of the house, cooking, washing and cleaning. Every morning the gnomes went to the mountains to mine gold and precious stones and returned late at night. Leaving for work, they warned Snow White to be afraid of the evil stepmother and not open the door to strangers. At this time, the queen, as usual, went to the secret room to talk to the magic mirror. But the mirror suddenly said that she was not the most beautiful in the world, but Snow White. That the princess is still alive, and lives with the gnomes in the house. The queen became very angry, and decided to deal with Snow White herself. She went to a secret room and cooked a poisonous venomous apple there. It was very beautiful on the outside, but if someone ate even a piece, he would certainly die. When the apple was ready, the queen changed into an old merchant and came to the house of the dwarfs. Seeing the sweet old woman, Snow White felt sorry for her. She did not suspect anything and left the house. The old woman treated the girl to a ripe apple and said that if she eats this apple, she will remain young and beautiful forever. Snow White believed her, and as soon as she bit the apple, she fell down dead and stopped breathing. The contented queen went to the palace. In the evening, the dwarves returned from work and saw Snow White lying on the ground. She was not breathing. They sobbed so loudly and lamented that their cry was heard by the handsome prince, who was hunting in the forest nearby. It became interesting to him what kind of howl arose that scared away all the animals. And when the prince found the house of the dwarfs, he saw Snow White. She was so beautiful that the young prince immediately fell in love with her. He persuaded the dwarves to take her with him to the castle, because there he has doctors who can cure Snow White. The dwarfs allowed it. Then the prince ordered his servants to carry the princess on their shoulders. And when they were carrying her, it happened that the servants stumbled over some bush, and from the concussion a piece of a poisonous apple fell out of Snow White's mouth, and she woke up. Seeing the young prince, the girl also fell in love with him, and agreed to marry him. They also invited their wicked stepmother to the wedding. Out of anger that Snow White is still alive, and that now a long and happy life awaits her, the queen broke the magic mirror and never looked at it again.